Uh, well, the game turned out exactly like I kind of thought it would. In my last video, I sounded kind of negative. I was just kind of saying I'm not really sure we can win this game. I don't think we can. So this game was a little bit like I expected, but what I didn't expect was them to play like crap, and they did. Um, they didn't fully play like crap. I mean, there were moments in the game where they did some good things. They had some good runs. They made some good passes. They did a good job in tackling. And, there were some good tackling moments in the game. Not a lot. Most of them were kind of sloppy, but there were a lot of times where they made sacks. Defense played good, made some stops, made some sacks. Like I said, the running game had some good moments, and the passing game did too. But overall, the team just mostly played like crap. And there was a point in the game where, well, like in the early moments of the game, I remember there was a situation where the ball was snapped over Nick Mullins' head. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be another one of those games at the clink. And it was. Um, the team just went three and out too much, I thought. And they just could not score in this game. There were times when they moved the ball, but then they would turn it over. When they get down there, they would turn it over. Um, they had moments in the game. They had moments to really stay close, but just the turnovers, the sloppy, some sloppy tackling, and some bad calls. And some of these calls were terrible. I mean, there was a call. I can't remember how it went, but there was a call where they said that one of the 49ers on defense jumped off sides, and they showed a replay of it, and it didn't look like the guy jumped off sides. Even the announcers were saying that, and I guess it was the play that got Kyle Shanahan all stirred up and used the F word at the official, and he got penalized. The team got penalized for that. You know what? I know that you sometimes have to keep your cool in the game, but if I saw a boneheaded call like that against my team, I probably would do the same thing that Kyle Shanahan did. I'd be pissed too, because these officials suck in this league. That we see so many controversial calls. I think some of them are just you know done because these officials want to control some of the results of these games. You kind of start to think that. But there was some. I think there was a pass interference call that didn't look like pass interference. I mean, granted, there were penalties that were their fault, but there's some that were questionable. And I just don't. These officials really suck. So I probably would have done the same thing. And besides that, when Kyle Shanahan uses the F word at one of the officials, uh, you know, that's been going on a long time in the NFL, where coaches have used bad language at the officials. And I don't think I've ever seen this before, where an official actually flags a coach for using the F word. It's almost like the officials were doing this on purpose. They wanted us to lose that game. I really believe in the NFL. Uh, they really try to control the outcome of games. I really believe that, because there's so many calls that just seem controversial. But anyways, going back to the other things, it's as a 49er fan, this is really hard to lose this game, because this means they continue our streak on us. I think they've won 10 straight against us now, something like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know why we always put this kind of team together and we just can't beat Seattle. And we're on our way to having trouble with the Cardinals as well. And yeah, this was a disaster, of a game. But I wasn't expecting them to win, because I knew that Seattle was a better team. but I wasn't counting on the team to lose like they did, and I was not expect you know, and it is hard to lose this game because this means we've lost to the Seahawks 10 consecutive times. I lived in the Northwest, so I got to deal with this every day of my life. I just think that the coaching staff need to do something to get around this. Because it just seems like to me they're content with losing to Seattle. They're content. It's a loss, okay. You know, you got to. I don't know. I just think this team doesn't have enough pride in it. I don't think these players have a lot of pride. You think they would go into Seattle and say, "Look, these guys have beaten us a lot of times in the past. Let's go out there and try to get a win today." And instead, they go out there and they play sloppy. It's like they don't care. It's been a frustrating season. I mean, it's just been one bad thing after the next, and it just seems like it's getting worse every week. Even the losses are becoming really bad every week. Um, we do get to play Seattle again in a couple of weeks. We have, I believe, Denver next, and then after that, Seattle. And this time we get Seattle at Santa Clara, but I hope we end the streak right there. Um, so this team needs to really work on a lot of things. They need to fix a lot of things. That's just a mess right now. Um, it's interesting that I was watching Ronbo Sports today, and he said that there are still Trent Bulky scouts that are still on the 49ers, that are still working for the 49ers, who are still doing scouting. And I'm thinking to myself, that almost explains what I've been saying. Because what I've been saying is when Kyle Shanahan came in and John Lynch, I thought things were going to change. But the approach has stayed the same. Things have seemed like they're staying the same. And I was starting to believe that maybe there was somebody above um, uh, Shanahan and John Lynch, and I thought maybe there was somebody above them making decisions, because nothing is changing. Everything is still the same. It's still the same way of dealing with players and stuff. So so that had me a little suspicious. And then on Rombo Sports, he said that the 49ers still have the same scouts who are bringing these Trent Bulky like players to the team. And this is probably why this is continuing. But they have got to turn this around. This is ridiculous. We go through this every year, and we go through this with we go through this um, like in the draft and stuff like that. We sometimes don't get the right players in here, and sometimes we don't do enough in free agency, and we end up with this every year. It sucks. Um, but that game was difficult. Losing to Seattle is tough because we lose to this team every single year. Every year since that NFC Championship game. And sometimes I think the football gods are against us. I think the football gods hate us. I mean, how else do you explain how all this bad stuff has been happening to us lately? They want us to lose. For whatever reason, they don't like us. And I mean, I know there's no such thing really as football gods, but I'm just saying the way things are, you would think there is. And it's just frustrating. This whole thing is just frustrating. Yeah, and it wasn't a very good game for the 49ers. Um, and you know, when like I said, before Kyle Shanahan used the F word at one of the officials, they flagged the team for that. And that was just bullshit. Bull. It was a bunch of bull. So yeah, this team needs to turn things around and turn it around in the off season. Right now, I feel like I can't wait until the off season. Really, I can't wait. because I think that once we get to the off season, we can forget about this terrible season, and we don't have to worry about losing again, and we can just focus on the draft and free agency. But if like this stuff on Rambo Sports is true about us still having these Trent Bulky like scouts, those guys need to get out. Those guys need to be fired. We need to put our own people in there that we can trust and know that are going to bring us the right kind of players. And another interesting thing that I heard on Rambo Sports is that what he heard was that between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan is actually the boss. He can fire. Uh, Kyle Shanahan can fire John Lynch. Usually it's the other way around. It's the GM that's above the coach. But I don't know. I've heard something that it was actually John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan that was the boss between the two. Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know if all that's true, but you never know. The way the NFL is and the way things are right now, like, you just never know. And we the 49ers have to have a good draft. They have to do a better job in free agency. They need to address certain things on defense. I think that they need to address the defense, and get some corners in there. Get some more safeties in there. Get an edge rusher. We need an edge rusher. That's one of the things that we need on defense. We need that big play receiver that we need. I mean, Marquise Goodwin is good, and Bourne and all these other guys, they're good, but we need something more. We need a big star receiver like a Jerry Rice or something like that. We need a player like that. It's got kind of a cold going on right here. But no, I think that the game today or yesterday, it was a terrible game, and I think a lot of 49er fans right now are disgruntled about what's going on. But I'll tell you this much. I'll tell you this. If we have a season like this next season, and it's like this, then John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have to go. And the reason why I say that is because this will show that there hasn't been any. They'll be 3 years into their contract, and this will show that there hasn't been any improvement at all on the football team. None. I would think that by now, the 49ers should have shown improvement by now. They should be showing improvement by now. If not early in the season, right about now, they should start showing improvement, and they're not. Now, I know that they got a lot of injuries and stuff like that, but that's one of the things the team also needs. It needs depth. If one guy gets hurt, they needed somebody to fill in the void. They need another guy to fill in that place. So that's one of the things that they have to do. But yeah, the Seattle game was, God, they didn't. It seemed like they didn't even try. The turnovers, the just some stupid things that they did in that game. I mean, I don't know what it is about that place up there, but they go up there and they just let that team screw us in the ass every year. Every year we go up there, they let that team screw us in the ass. You know, it's really frustrating. And I don't know what else we can do except look towards next season. We'll probably you know have the number one draft, um, and that's a possibility. One thing I was happy about today was that the Cardinals beat the Packers, and the reason why I was happy about that is because this means now that we're not the only team that lost to the Cardinals this season. They lost to the Cardinals too. But it was pretty tough for the Packers because they fired their head coach. Um, Seattle is, I thought that in the beginning of the season I thought that Seattle was going to go through some tough rebuilding. I thought that they lost all those players, and it was the end of an era, and the era is not over yet. It's still not over. They still are capable of being a playoff team, and I think that as long as Russell Wilson is there in Seattle, and as long as they have Pete Carroll up there, I think they're just going to continue being that team. I think that if they get to a point where they lose Russell Wilson one day to retirement or whatever, and the same thing goes for Pete Carroll, I think that will probably be the beginning of the end. I think as long as Russell Wilson's there and Pete Carroll, they still will manage to win games. I think. But that's why it's important for us, the 49ers. We have to really get serious about free agency and the draft. No more screwing around. No more tinkering with this and tinkering with that, and settling for this and settling for that. As far as free agents and draftees go, we have to really address a lot of things, and we have to make this team better, or we will be going through this every single year. You know, um, I don't, losing to Seattle for the 10th consecutive time, I believe it is now. I can't believe that doesn't strike a chord with with Jed York. I mean, he has to feel humiliated that his team is losing to the same team the past 10 games. I mean, the Seahawks. I mean, we play the Seahawks twice every year, so we've lost to them 10 straight times in a row. I think you'd be humiliated by that, and really make an effort to improve the team. I can remember it was in the early 1990s when the 49ers were having a hard time getting past Dallas in the NFC Championship game. And after the second consecutive year in a row, the 49ers lost to the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. Eddie Bartolo, the owner at the time, and Carmen Policy, the GM at the time, were heading down the elevator, and Eddie Bartolo turned and looked at Carmen Policy and said, "We cannot get embarrassed like this again." And they went into the off season. They got all the players they needed. They retooled the team, and they built a team that was able and capable of beating Dallas and moving on to the Super Bowl and winning. I would think that Jed York would do the same thing with this Seahawks situation that we're in. I mean, let's build a team that can beat the Seahawks. That's what we need to start doing. Plus, another thing too is next season. Uh, now we know that the Rams aren't the only team that we have to worry about. We have to worry about the Seahawks as well, and the Cardinals are showing things. So we got to get high. We got to get going on this. If we have another year like this next year, then they need to go. I think the coach, a GM, they need to go, because you're if you're not improving for the past 2 years, then that means that you're just rock bottom. You're not moving at all. You're not going up. And you would think that by the third year there should be improvement. you know, and by the third year they should be a playoff team. But right now they've had a lot of setbacks. The Reuben Foster thing, the injuries, all these losing games, and also I think too another thing is Robert Saleh needs to go. I'm done with Robert Saleh. I mean, his defenses are just no good. The guy, I mean, you know what the guy reminds me of? You ever seen the old Madden video games where like the PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, where you see this emotional coach on the sidelines looking like this? That's Robert Saleh. He needs to get into these guys' face and say, "Come on, guys, let's play, let's get it done." He doesn't show that. He doesn't show that 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 way a coach is supposed to be when his players are not coming through for him or for the team. And I don't see that. I just see a guy that looks like a mannequin on the sidelines, not showing any emotions of what's going on. Robert Saleh he's not fit to be our defensive coordinator. He's not. He's everybody insists that he must go, and he must go. By the way, if you think about it, we we could have won. If it wasn't for our defense, we probably would have won more games this season, because there were games where we scored like 30 points, 27 points, something like that. There were a lot of games like that, and if our defense just played decent enough, we would have won more games. But it's been the defense that has blown these games for us, that let the other team come back and win. And no matter how many points we put on the board, our defense always seems to cave in the end. And so I think if we had a defense that just played decent enough, we would have had more wins. So that's all I want to say. Congratulations to the Seahawk fans. You guys won't beat us. We'll look forward to this next meeting in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it was not a very good game for the 49ers. It was humiliating, you know, especially the way they played. And I got to go into work tomorrow, and I have to deal with all those Seahawk fans and Seahawk praisers, and I'm sure they'll remind me of the game. So, but anyways, that's my video. Everybody take good care. I guess I've been going too long on this, but until my next video, I'll probably do a video next Saturday for the Denver game. So, talk about that. Until then, I'll talk to you all later. All right, bye.